We've all been there, right? You're a perfect fit for the job, on paper. But then the interview happens, and it just falls flat. So today, we're going to dig into why that happens, and, more importantly, how to fix it. This isn't about luck. It's about having a system, a real process. Let's get into it.
All right, so here's what we're covering. First, we'll talk about something called the interview performance gap. Then, we'll look at the common reasons why even super smart candidates fail. After that, we'll dive into the solution, mock interviews, and see the 7 tangible wins you get from them. We'll even touch on some AI tools and wrap up with a whole new way to think about winning that job. Okay, so let's tackle the big question right away. Why do smart, qualified people like you, bomb job interviews? Your resume is solid, you know your industry inside and out, but when you're in that chair, something just doesn't connect. See, it's not a knowledge problem, it's a performance problem, and it can go sideways right from the very beginning.
Just think about this for a second. Most interviews are actually lost before the first answer is even finished. That first impression, those first 90 seconds, they set the stage for everything. If you start out a little shaky, it can completely tank your confidence for the rest of the conversation, no matter how much you know.
And that brings us to our first big idea, the interview performance gap. You have to understand, an interview isn't a quiz on your resume. It's a live show. It's a performance. And your delivery, your confidence, how you handle the pressure, that's being judged just as much, if not more, than the content of your answers.
Yeah, this is really the key thing to get. Knowing the right answer and actually performing that answer under pressure, those are two completely different things. You can't just know it in your head. You have to be able to deliver it smoothly when it counts. Performance is a skill, and like any skill, you've got to build it.
All right, so if performance is the problem, what are we all doing wrong? Well, it usually boils down to 3 hidden mistakes. Seriously, almost everyone makes these when they're prepping. Let's pull back the curtain and look at what they are.
Okay, mistake number 1. They practice the answers, but not the delivery. The tone of voice, the pacing, all that stuff. Number 2, they never simulate real pressure, so when they're actually in the hot seat, everything falls apart. And number 3, and this is the biggie, they get absolutely no feedback. They're just practicing in a bubble. And that feedback problem? It's huge. Get this, 94% of job seekers say they want feedback after an interview. They're desperate to know what went wrong, but they almost never get it. And if you don't know what's broken, how can you possibly fix it? You can't. You just keep making the same mistakes over and over again. So what's the fix? How do we actually practice our delivery, get used to the pressure, and create that feedback loop we need? Well, the answer is to stop winging it and start using a system. And the core of that system is one incredibly powerful tool, the mock interview. And look, the numbers don't lie. The data here is crystal clear. Candidates who actually practice in a structured way are over 30% more likely to get a job offer. That's not a tiny little edge. That's a massive, game-changing advantage. That is literally the difference between getting that automated rejection email and getting the offer. So what exactly is a mock interview? Let's just define it so we're all on the same page. Think of it like a dress rehearsal for a play or a scrimmage before the big game. It's a simulated interview where you practice performing under pressure and get feedback. It's all about building that muscle memory, so when it's showtime, you're ready.
And believe me, the stakes are ridiculously high. In 2025, the average job posting got something like 340 applicants. Out of all those people, only 2%, just a tiny handful, even get to the interview stage. When you finally get that shot, you absolutely cannot afford to waste it because you weren't prepared to perform. Every little edge counts.
Okay, so we've established that mock interviews are the way to go, but what does getting better actually mean? What are the real, tangible results? Let's get specific and break down the 7 measurable wins you get when you start practicing for real.
All right, let's run through them. First, you'll absolutely nail that first impression. Second, your STAR method stories, they become tight and powerful, not long and rambling. Third, you'll slash all those filler words, the ums, the ahs, the likes, which instantly makes you sound more credible. You'll think faster on your feet. Your prep will be more targeted, your closing statements will be stronger, and maybe, most important of all, you walk into those final rounds with real, earned confidence, ready to close the deal.
So the big question is, how do you do this efficiently? I mean, who has time for this, right? In the old days, you had to bug a friend or pay a coach. But now, technology has totally changed the game. There are much smarter, easier ways to get this practice in.
Okay, let's compare. Practicing with a real person is good for picking up on subtle social cues, for sure. But it's a pain to schedule, and let's be honest, the feedback from a friend can be, well, inconsistent.
Now look at AI mock interview tools. They're on demand 24/7. The scoring is objective, and you can do it over and over and over again. And that repetition, that's the secret sauce to building any skill.
So here's the modern playbook, the best strategy for 2026. You use AI tools for volume. You use them to get in the reps, to drill your answers, to build that core confidence. Then you supplement that with maybe 1 or 2 sessions with a real person to work on the nuance and the human connection. It's the best of both worlds.
And all of this, it leads to a completely different way of thinking. You stop hoping you'll do well on the big day, and you start building a system that guarantees you will. The goal is to win the interview before you even step foot in the building.
You know that amazing confidence you see in some candidates? That's not a personality trait they were born with. It's a skill. And just like learning to play the guitar or speak a new language, it's built piece by piece through practice and repetition. It's something anyone, and I mean anyone, can learn.
So if you take away one thing, let it be this. Interviews are won in practice, not in the room. The real work, the work that actually matters, happens weeks before you ever shake the hiring manager's hand. That interview room, it's just a spotlight. It doesn't magically create a winner. All it does is reveal who put in the work. It shows who trained like a pro and who was just winging it. So I want to leave you with one final question to ask yourself. Is your preparation a system or is it a gamble? Because in a job market this competitive, one of those is a path to an offer, and the other, well, it's just wishful thinking.